All right, what's up, everyone? I'm so sorry about that. I I had my mic muted, and I'm talking the whole time. So welcome to this BRAP rant. Thank you, Ice Queen Gaming. I appreciate that. Great to see you as well, Ice Queen Gaming. Yeah, so, yeah, sorry about that. It's Monday. It is Monday. Yeah, so Viper XC says, how are you guys feeling about Factions 2 being cross-gen? Okay, you know what? Is that breaking news? Is that a rumor? Like, I'm going to Google this. Let's see here. Yeah, so Old Man BRAP, thank you, Smoke. So yeah, Viper, where did you hear Factions 2 being cross-gen? If it is cross-gen, like I don't care, like whatever. I mean, if it's a there's a hiring post. Okay, there's a hiring post for someone needing PS4, PS5. Yeah, I mean, look, if it's cross-gen, one, I'm not surprised because it makes business sense for Sony to do that, considering the install base is higher than the PlayStation 5, and presumably, Factions is it is a multiplayer game, and so you want to have access to as many players as possible for those types of games. So I don't care. I really don't care. I mean, I don't think it's that big. I'm sure people will be upset about it, but I don't care. I understand the business sense behind it. Look, Babby, these companies are here to make money, and that's part of what this rant's about, by the way. All right, I need to drop the link, let everyone know that we're live on the Twitters as well, because I actually didn't advertise this on Twitter. Let's see here. BRAP Rant Live. Here we go. All right. Boom. There we go. I just tweeted that out. So got that out of the way. All right. So, so Viper XT, I think we both agree on that. All right. So look, the BRAP rant, let's be real honest about the Activision Microsoft deal. I haven't heard a lot of sensible conversation around this deal. It's very unfortunate. I think that the one thing that's really kind of disappointing with the conversation around this deal within the gaming community, and even amongst some of the media that's covering this, and especially with some of the platform-centric YouTubers out there, more so on the Xbox side, I might add. It's there's been a lot of disinformation, a lot of misinformation, a lot of propaganda, a lot of sensationalism. People not going to the sources for information and relying on, in some cases, more platform-specific journalists and platform-specific YouTubers. And I don't know why that's happening. There's an abundance of information out there, and I'm seeing a lot of people just make these weird accusations and use things like Sony's scared and they're shaking to their core because Microsoft's going to compete and this and that, and the sky is falling. The sky really isn't blue, and flip, farm, filth. I know, Ice Cream Gaming, I know you're getting sick of this deal. I am too, but I do want to try to have a more rational conversation about this deal because, frankly, it isn't happening. And it's unfortunate because, Bender of Strings, you can feel free to substantiate that claim that you're trying to make against me, by the way, and I'll happily wait for that. It's interesting that that there has been a lot of just, this is a great case study. Like if you're interested in business, the dynamics of mergers and acquisitions, if you're interested about the gaming industry, I think this is a great opportunity to really learn about the regulatory process, to learn about how mergers and acquisitions work, to learn about, like, historically speaking, how vertical M&As have been viewed by regulators and how they're being viewed now. Like, there's clearly a shift in the views of vertical M&As, which have been primarily gone through without much pushback from the regulatory agencies. Okay. Sorry, Bender of Strings. My bad, man. I didn't know where you were coming from. That's my bad, Bender. So Bender's, yes, Bender. I apologize, my friend. He's like, Christ, BRAP. I'm not accusing you. I'm agreeing with you. Yes, but you are, Bender. I realize that now. I didn't realize at the time. I did what I'm going to talk about here in a second. But no, this is actually, believe it or not, like, guys, this is a really, really great case study to kind of get insight into how these regulatory bodies operate. To look at how vertical mergers have primarily, like I said, have gone through without a lot of scrutiny per se, but also that, we can also see that not all mergers are the same, and that not all mergers are going to, receive the same level of scrutiny, because different mergers, acquisitions have different impacts. Sometimes the economies of scale are different. And that's a part that a lot of people miss. But let's talk about the M&A piece here real quick, because you see a lot of accusations lobbied at the CMA, the FTC, the EU, by what I will call more extreme elements, more extreme fanatical viewpoints that are really formulated out of just misinformation, disinformation, propaganda from either people they follow in the community, certain journalists, YouTubers. They're getting just information from those individuals, and that's their reality. That's all they know. They're not stepping outside of the box and really critically thinking and having an honest conversation with themselves about what's happening here. Remember the who, what, where, and why we learned in school? Like that clearly is a dead art form. I say it's not even an art form. That's clearly dead. The ability to ask who, what, where, and why, to critically think about things, to do research. And I'll give examples of what people are saying that are completely wrong, that they could have easily done a Google search on. So, so there's certainly an opportunity here from to look at this as a case study and to learn from this. And I think it's a missed opportunity, especially for those who are really interested in the gaming industry and really trying to understand how the sausage is made, and again, how the regulatory process works and all those other things. So, again, clearly there is and I can understand why. Of course, when I say this, people are like, "Oh, you're just against the deal, BRAP. You're just against the deal." Look, here's the thing. I don't care if this deal gets passed. I just don't. I don't care if it gets passed or if it doesn't, or if it does get passed. I have no skin in the game here. I really don't. I will say this though. There is some pause for concern as a consumer. I'm speaking to you as a consumer, and this is the problem that I have with, more of the extremist elements in the community. When you start raising things like concern over mass consolidation and how in technology, mass consolidation really hasn't benefited consumers. And we have tangible proof of this. Look at the ISP providers. Look at the mobile cell phone providers as examples of how those M&As haven't really benefited gamers. I don't know about you guys, but when AT&T merged, when they bought, who's it they bought? Or no, sorry, T-Mobile and Sprint merged. Oh, it's going to be great for consumers. It's going to lower cost. Thank you. Oil companies too, Bender. Oil companies might be even more egregious because oil is kind of a necessity. But Andre Clay, and this is it. And look, man, here's the thing. You say maybe because it's some truth to some of the stuff they say and that bothers you. I would agree with you, but no one has substantiated any of those things that they've been saying. When they villainize Sony, when they say Sony's scared, it's not that it bothers me. It's just that it's not based on any ground of reality. What's up, T-Rock? And Andre, like that, your mindset is probably the problem. I've seen you here in the live chat. There isn't a critical thought that comes out of your mouth in this conversation. And I say this with all due respect. Yeah, smokes lots of conjecture. But this is the problem. So when I bring up when I business is business, this is absolutely true, Mario Heat, and I'm going to get to that here in a second. But when I bring up things like, hey, I'm possibly concerned about mass consolidation, people get upset. They say, oh, you're against this deal. No, I'm looking at this from a consumer standpoint, not from a platform. I mean, the reality is, even if PlayStation was my preferred platform, no, I'm not triggered, Andre. Andre Clay, I'm not triggered at all. But the reality is, you're not bringing any intellectual points to the conversation. You're just going out there and just throwing bombs out and gaslighting. That's not really having a conversation. So no, it's not being triggered. I'm just calling you out for you just being intellectually dishonest. And you do it quite a lot. And that's part of the problem with social media today. But that's another conversation. The point that I'm trying to make is, when you bring up things like let's say let's say I am a PlayStation. What's up, Ham? What's up, Ham Solo? The thing is, when I could be somebody who prefers the PlayStation platform, and I could say, as a consumer, I am concerned about mass consolidation based on the impact of mass consolidation in technology, in other technology sectors, right? ISPs, mobile phone, and those are tangible examples. That doesn't mean that I'm shilling for Sony. Those two things can coexist. That people can actually genuinely be concerned. And I find it intellectually disingenuous, when people suggest otherwise, in light of providing tangible proof. What's up, AC? So what's interesting with the regulatory bodies, I've been doing a lot of reading about this, and clearly there's a point where there's precedent here. This is why I do think the deal will go through, because there's some historical precedent here where vertical mergers and acquisitions have been approved. The Disney acquisition of Fox, Century 21 Fox. But there was concessions that had to be made for that, and I do think this deal will go through with concessions. A lot of concessions, I might add. The problem is that I'm having conversations with people, and they're regurgitating the same talking points that they hear on podcasts. Sony's scared. Microsoft is right. Sony's wrong. But there's no substance behind those claims. No one's substantiating any of those things that they're saying. A lot of it is propaganda. The name calling, the scaring, the accusation of being scared. Look, I could tell you something, and this is my point too. If you've ever been around a C-level executive, and I have professionally, they're not scared the way people are trying to make Sony executives scared. They're not scared. Ham, of course it's going to be messy. Absolutely. I wouldn't expect anything differently. These are individuals like Jim Ryan. He's a C-level executive. He gets paid probably very high six figures, maybe seven figures. And he has a fiduciary responsibility to his shareholders and to Sony Corporation. His fiduciary responsibility to shareholders is legally bounding. Why do you think he's against this deal? And I'm bringing up Sony being against this deal because let's take the emotion out of it. And let's just be real. What do businesses care about the most? Thank you, Ham Solo. What is Jim Ryan's job as CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment? His primary job is to protect the interests of Sony Interactive Entertainment, to protect money, profits, to protect that bottom line, to protect, thank you, Ham Solo, to protect the brand. That is his job. If he doesn't do his job, he will be fired. He will be held accountable by the shareholders. I see people saying Phil Spencer's out in the media. He's lying to the press. No, Phil Spencer is doing what Phil Spencer needs to do. And I keep seeing this thing, well, Sony's wrong and Microsoft's right. Neither company's right or wrong. Both companies are behaving as all corporations do in matters of money. But people are trying to spin this into something that it isn't. This isn't WWE Monday Night Raw. This isn't WWE, SmackDown. This is business. If you've been around C-level executives, you'd understand this is how they operate. This isn't the Super Bowl. That's right, Mari. This is not the Super Bowl. This is how companies operate. So Andre Clay says, let's be honest here. If the shoe was on the other foot and Sony was buying ABK, would you be making such a big fuss over it? Yes, I would. If the Sony camp was out there pushing propaganda and making nonsensical commentary and spreading misinformation, disinformation, absolutely. See, Andre, you have been indoctrinated in this thing called console wars. You can't think outside the box. For you, Andre, it's us versus them. You don't have the ability, for whatever reason, to put emotion aside from a plastic box. And you're not and you can't put the emotion aside. And that's what I'm talking about. And instead of having a just rational conversation, this is what we have. Andre, you being the example, and I don't mean to pick on you, but you're kind of like proving my point here. You're so wrapped up in the us versus them, you can't think outside the box. You're trapped. Mario Heat says, BRAP, let me put it in other words, Jim Ryan is doing the best to also capitalize on this deal. Exactly. And I'll get to that in just a sec here, Mario Heat. Did you say, Smokes, are you saying why Hamp or where's Hamp? Hamp's not here. Big shout out to Lord Metroid with the $5 super chat. Says the issue with the ABK deal is that Microsoft owns plenty of studios and they can't deliver exclusives in a timely manner as it is. Never mind ABK. Thank you for that super chat. That's another conversation that I won't get into today, but I appreciate the super chat. Brian Epps is trapped within the confines of the fanboy mind. That's my point. That is my point. What's up, Sir X-Man? So back to this deal. Both, so my point was both people are saying that one is wrong, the other one's right. They're villainizing one company over the other. Oh, they're scared. They're evil. They're this, they're that. No, they are a corporation. Microsoft and Sony are operating as corporations do in matters of money. And there's a lot of money involved here. Let's just keep it real. A $70 billion deal to acquire a major publisher, the largest gaming publisher outside of a platform holder, is up for grabs. Think about that for a second. A $70 billion acquisition. Microsoft's largest acquisition ever. So, of course, Microsoft's going to go out there. They're going to go out there and they're going to make it public. They're going to try to placate to their fan base that this deal's good and bad Sony. They're trying to win the court of public opinion. I in my opinion, I do find that a little odd, but I understand why they're doing it. And on Sony's hand, Jim Ryan, CEO, much like Phil Spencer, who's doing what he needs to do to appease the shareholders. But Sony, if you look at the financials, Activision's financials recently, 13% of Activision's revenue comes from Sony PlayStation. 13%. Almost 50% of people who purchase Call of Duty do so on the PlayStation platform. And what happens when people buy Call of Duty on the PlayStation Store? What happens when they do microtransactions through the PlayStation Store? Sony gets a cut. Sony is trying to protect its bottom line, which is why they've been against this deal from day one. Microsoft, in doing what it's doing, in lobbying, in meeting with regulators, is doing what it's doing because it's trying to protect its potential investment to increase revenue for itself. No, Buck, nothing happened. I'm trying to have a more sensible conversation. Worry Ward says Jim Ryan never goes to church, but Phil is there every Sunday. You know, people act like that. It's kind of weird. It is kind of weird, by the way. It's very the way the cult of personality of the demigodding of probably the cult of personality of Phil Spencer is kind of interesting by the Xbox community. They treat him like he's Jesus Christ. It's kind of weird. But my point is that, again, the examples I'm giving you is that to show you that these companies are acting the way corporations are supposed to act. Like if Jim Ryan didn't come out and say, if Jim Ryan said, hey, I'm okay with this deal. Yeah, just have at it. He'd be gone. He'd be fired. That would be more of a story than Jim Ryan, than Lulu, the the chief communications for Activision, coming out and saying, "Oh, hey, she's saying that, Jim Ryan says I don't want another deal. I just want to block this deal," or whatever he said. I'm paraphrasing. Like, that's not news to me because Sony's been against this deal day one. What would have been news if Lulu said, "Hey, Jim Ryan's a great guy, and he just agreed to the 3-year deal we initially offered, and he's ready to see this deal through." Then I would be like, "Wait a minute, something's off here." He's not protecting the investment of Sony PlayStation or looking out for their shareholders. What's up, Worry? I don't know if Worry can hear me. I can hear you now, Worry.
Okay.
What's going on? Worry, how are you, sir?
I wanted to just let you know that, if you're Catholic, you have to go to confession before you can get Holy Communion. Phil Spencer does not have to go to confession. He skips that completely.
Oh my goodness.
That's how amazing the man is. And Jim Ryan is just, I know for a fact, I don't know if you know this or not, many people don't, but Jim Ryan was on vacation and he took food from a starving child rather than pay for his meal. He didn't have to do that, but he did it. And I think it's important to put that into perspective when you're talking about these two people. I think it's very important. You're doing a disservice by not bringing that up, BRAP.
I'm sorry, Worry.
I want to set it straight because it's important. Yes. Also, here's a really great example. You have a favorite sports team?
Yes, I do.
Who is it?
I don't want to say.
Why? Is it like against the law or something? Or
No, because they're
do
terrible.
they suck? Do they
They
suck?
suck. Yes.
All right. So who's the rival of your favorite sports team?
The Dallas Cowboys.
Okay, the Dallas Cowboys. Now, arguably, I don't know anything about football. Okay, the Dallas Cowboys arguably must have better players than your favorite team's players. Correct?
That is correct.
Okay, why do they have those better players? I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah.
They have better scouts who go out and identify star players. They also have a better infrastructure in place to offer more money to those players than, say, your team did, because they recognize that these players not only are going to bring more people to the seats in the stadium, but they're also going to give their franchise the opportunity to win a championship. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Okay. So who are you angry at? Are you angry at the scouts for not going out and doing the job they're supposed to do in a better way than the Dallas Cowboys scouts? Or are you angry at the owner of the Dallas Cowboys because he hates people? He hates football. He's not doing what he's supposed to do. This is the same argument. Sony can identify talent. Microsoft, up until, I guess, what? This generation or last generation, either couldn't, either didn't, either wouldn't. Either way, they didn't do it. The same people arguing about this stuff. Let me ask you a question. Would you be okay with your favorite, let's like the idea of exclusives, right? Exclusives, they shouldn't be anywhere. They shouldn't be anywhere. They shouldn't exist, right? They shouldn't exist. Would you be okay with the star player on your team being loaned out every week to every team in the NFL? Would you be all right with that?
No.
Why?
Because that takes away from my team.
Exactly. And the same people who are anti-exclusives or anti-whatever one company's doing versus the other would say the same thing you just did. Because you need something to differentiate your brand, and you have to identify it. So that's why, I guess, I'm not a football guy, so I'm going to say Tom Brady. Everybody seems to hate that guy. I don't know why. But
He
supposed
wins.
to be a good. He's supposed to be a good quarterback, right?
Yeah, he wins all the time.
Would everyone be okay? Oh, you know what? This week, go play somewhere else, because it's just not fair that you only play here. It's not right. Why should we keep you tied up just for this one exclusive franchise? It's not right. It should be for everyone. Football's for everyone. When everyone plays football, we all win. But that's not what happens, is it?
No.
Right. And it's the same thing with every product. This idea, like, I'm going off on a rant here, this Call of Duty nonsense. Well, Call of Duty really isn't special, right? There's nothing special about Call of Duty. Anybody can make a military shooter. We don't own the rights to military shooters. Go out, buy some leather, and buy some shoelaces, and then make a pair of sneakers.
Yeah.
Make a pair of sneakers, and then tell me you're going to compete with Nike. Is that going to happen?
Maybe.
It's not going to happen. And the reason it's not going to happen is because Nike has been established for years. They've built a brand up over the years. They've done all this cutthroat work. Remember the shoes And One?
Yeah.
Remember those?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Well, they dared to take on Nike, and they were doing well for a while. And what happened? Nike just bought out everybody.
Yeah.
That's what they did. You can't just create a military shooter and then all of a sudden compete with Call of Duty. That's what Sony knows. Microsoft knows that. Of course they both know it. Jim Ryan is supposed to be doing what he's doing. Phil Spencer is supposed to be doing what he's doing. These nonsensical statements like, well, on a case-by-case basis, Bethesda, before they even bought Bethesda, none of these games were going to be pulled off of PlayStation. The day after they purchased them, the deal closed, what happened? Elder Scrolls, which is a franchise that existed on every platform before we purchased them, is now exclusive to Xbox. But somehow we're supposed to believe that that won't happen when it comes to Call of Duty.
Yeah.
This is the problem. You're not a fanboy for thinking about these things or bringing them up. Of course, it's not a major issue. There's many more issues in the world than fucking video games, right? Talking about them. But, if you're interested in it and you bring it up, of course, you can only cry wolf so many times, right? You keep saying the wolf is coming. It doesn't show up. The exclusives are coming. They don't show up. The games are coming. They don't show up. Wait till E3. They don't show up. At some point, don't you think it's relative to say, well, where's the wolf? When is it going to show up?
Yeah.
So
No. Yeah.
I'm just so sick of social media, man. I fucking hate it. I
Oh,
really hate it.
it's you know, I'm getting to the point where I may stop going on Twitter.
We're aged out of it. This is not something like I grew up where, like, if you're talking about something like this, like, there wasn't this divide between people with social media. I remember standing in Funko Land talking about, games coming out and why they were going to be awesome, and somebody else complaining that, oh, it wasn't going to be good, the PlayStation sucks, or this or that. These people were literally in front of you, right? You had to hold your own, and you had a level of respect because you didn't want to get your teeth stomped in, because you were actually in front of people talking to them. You had to have a level of respect, right? This social media nonsense is off. I mean, I don't want to name names, but I saw, who's the woman from Activision who keeps tweeting out after all these meetings? I forget her name.
Oh, you're talking about she's Lulu. She's the chief communications officer. Okay. And by the way, she is doing her job. And what's interesting, and what's interesting about Lulu, what's funny, and this is the part that drives me crazy, because people don't think about things critically. They think about things emotionally because they're tied to a piece of plastic. She tweets out, hey, Microsoft offered Sony a better deal than Activision would ever have offered Sony. And I'm like, Lulu, that is not for you to decide. That is for Sony to decide whether or not that deal is better.
Well, she knows that, but that's her job.
She does know that, but what I'm saying is that people fall for that hook, line, and sinker. I'm like, guys.
Oh, that's what I was going to talk about.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
That's what I was going to. Hold on. Let me collect my thoughts. That's what I was going to say. She's supposed to say all these ridiculous things. She's supposed to do it. I'm not shocked by it. It's supposed to happen. I would do it. If you're paying me $400,000, $500,000 a year, I would say whatever you wanted me to say. I do those things. I'm not beyond just saying something. But when I saw her tweet out, Jim Ryan said this. Now, I'm not going to say who, but somebody said in response, when was this said? And she responded when he said it. Okay. Then that person said, oh, I have such respect for you, Lulu. You're one of the best people I've ever seen in this industry. And I'm thinking, what the fuck world am I living in?
That's weird.
You don't even know this person. You're of an age where you can be critical and understand. Like, if you've engaged with people, if you've purchased things, if you've been in an industry, you know that it's essentially bullshit. It's essentially marketing. How are you tying this to, like, some sort of emotional attachment to a person you've never met simply because they're saying something about a toy that you've dedicated your entire YouTube career on? Maybe it's because I don't see YouTube as a job. If I saw YouTube as like a real job, I guess I would understand it. I guess ad revenue and subscribers, you need to keep your subscriber count coming and growing. Then I kind of get it. But I'm just an older generation. You know what I mean? I don't see sitting in front of a computer talking about toys as a job. I just don't.
Well, some people worry. This is the part that a lot of people don't realize. Some people have financial incentives to mislead into pom-pom platform. And they do. I mean, they really do. I mean, I know people.
Maybe I'm a hypocrite because I said, Lulu is supposed to do that because that's her job. So I guess if these people think that's their job, maybe they're supposed to do that too, right? I don't know. I just don't see the connection between the two. I think it's really odd.
But I do too.
Maybe if I had 2 million subscribers and I was getting like a free $3,000 or $4,000 every month just for being an idiot and saying things that aren't true or half truths, maybe I would do the same thing. I don't know. I don't want to be a hypocrite and say I wouldn't. It just seems odd to me. It seems very strange to me to ascribe some emotional connection to somebody who says things about a toy. Let's be honest. These are toys, BRAP. We're grown men who play with toys. Okay, you understand that, right?
What kind of toys are we talking about here, Worry?
Well, I don't want to talk about the ones I play with behind the scenes.
Okay, I wasn't sure, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But I just bought one, and it's called the Lexington Steel.
Oh my goodness! All right, go ahead, man. Oh my God!
Yeah.
Go ahead, Worry.
But I mean, we essentially play with toys, man. We're like 30, 40, and 50-year-olds who play with toys. And we're arguing about toys. Like, I used to do this when I was in grade school, I would argue over which Voltron is better, the Lion Force Voltron or the Vehicle Force Voltron.
Line Force.
Exactly, exactly. But I mean, I would get into arguments like that. These are the same arguments, but they're 50-year-old men doing it. And I can't understand it. It's got to be either for social media presence or I have like the whole thing like, oh, I just got 3,000 subscribers. Congratulations, you got 3. Who fucking cares? Like, how is this important? Don't you want to know about games coming out? Don't you want to talk about like a studio that has a pedigree of creating great games and what is their next game and to be excited about it? Aren't you interested in all the studios that Microsoft has, right? Before this Activision Blizzard King deal closes, they've got a bunch of studios. What the hell are they working on? Is anyone talking about it? Is anyone excited about it? Do we want any news out of any studio other than who's going to be added to the list of developers we own?
No.
I just don't understand.
And here's the thing. Halo Infinite Season 3 just released, and I don't see a lot of people talking about it.
I don't play multiplayer, so I can't really speak about multiplayer games. Is it doing well? Is it doing better?
No, it's not. But my point is that it's, you know, this is their quote unquote, this is their marquee tentpole franchise, and that fan base seem more and not everyone on that fan base. I do see one or two people talking about it. Well, actually, two people that I know talking about Halo Infinite. But for the most part, it's wrapped around about this ABK deal and wrapped around about villainizing Sony. And this is part of the problem. I'm gonna go to the live chat here. Ricardo117 says, BRAP is funny. Sony can pay for exclusive deals like 2 years Destiny or a year for Call of Duty, extra content, or Spider-Man. Oh, Spider-Man? What does O mean? You mean or? You use instead of O, like use or, not O.
Let me ask you a question though. Okay? Can't Microsoft pay for these deals too?
They can, but they just don't. They just don't. That's I was going to say that. Look, so I'm going to finish reading his. So BRAP is funny. Sony can pay for exclusive deals like 2 years of Destiny or not a year of Call of Duty, extra content, or Spider-Man. But when Microsoft tried to buy exclusives, people complain. Look,
so what happened during the Xbox 360 generation when they paid for every single map pack first? Was that an issue for this person that can't spell in your comment section? No, it wasn't. So
Ricardo
this is
did not spell.
This is the problem.
But here's the thing, Worry. The problem is that people are associating this deal only with exclusivity. The regulatory bodies, the big issue isn't exclusivity. It is that Microsoft is buying a publisher, Activision, King. And God, what's the other one? Blizzard Entertainment.
Right.
And arguably that.
Be honest.
Hold on, real quick. Arguably, that publisher is the largest publisher that's not a platform holder. I mean, they don't produce hardware. I mean, that is what this is. This is why this deal is being scrutinized. No one's complaining and saying Microsoft can't buy exclusives. Understand, Ricardo? There's a difference between exclusives and buying publishers the size and scope of Activision Blizzard King. No one batted an eye at Bethesda being bought as a publisher because Bethesda, in the terms of economies of scale, isn't anywhere near Activision Blizzard King. I'm sorry,
the
Ward, go ahead.
The best is when you compare or people try and bring up Bungie. Bungie isn't a publisher. They're a developer. That's it. They bought a developer who makes one game.
Yeah. Well, that ties into my point about exclusives. But go ahead, man.
It's a big difference. But look, let's be honest. 99% of the people who are saying what that person's saying in your comment section or any comment section would be absolutely fine with Microsoft and Xbox as a monopoly in the industry and controlling everything. They would be absolutely fine with it because of this weird, I'm somebody because other people told me on social media, and there's this group. And there's this Xbox community. You know, I know you're into that stuff. I'm not into it. I don't think there's a community on social media anywhere. I just don't. I think there's a community outside that talks about games because I talk to people outside about games and systems and old systems and retro systems and games coming. Social media is essentially like politics now, right? If you're Xbox, you're CNN. If you're PlayStation, you're Fox. And you got to join. And you got to say what they want you to say, and that's it. And that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem because there's no way to have a conversation with somebody about anything game related.
Here's I want to go to Ricardo 117 who says, "Brap, if you and the other guy are tired of this drama, why are you guys doing on Jesus Christ, man? Can you what are you guys doing on Twitter calling people defending Sony?" I don't like, look, man,
look, just you got to just be nice. He's probably young. He's typing really quickly, and maybe
but come on. I type quickly, and I can my grammar's not as terrible as this. But
70 years old.
Okay, that's a good point. But so here's the thing.
Right, we're not supposed to talk about it because we've been around playing these things. Like I was around before Xbox existed, and I was around when Xbox launched, and I got into the Xbox. The same thing. You're here asking us why we're talking about it, not because you're you don't want us to talk about it, because you're frustrated that we're talking about something that you don't want to hear. You just want to hear that Xbox is fantastic. That's your problem. That's not my problem. I'll talk about whatever the hell I want to talk about whenever the hell I want to talk about it with anybody that I want to talk about it with.
Yes, and if you don't like the conversation, Ricardo, you don't have to listen to it either. But my point is to you, Ricardo, like you're saying people defending Sony. When have I defended Sony? Again, here we go, Ricardo, with these nonsensical statements. You can't even substantiate what you're saying. Number one, you're just pulling stuff out of thin air because, again, you are tied to a plastic box, and your perception is in like you're stuck in this box of console wars. You can't think anything outside of that.
It's social media. Here's an example. Do you remember the PlayStation 3 network hack?
Yes, it was terrible.
Okay, whose fault was that?
That was Sony's fault.
Exactly. And why was it their fault? Because they didn't do what they were supposed to do to make information on their network secure. It's their fault. Do you remember when the United States of America took Microsoft to court in the early 2000s for anti-consumer and monopolistic practices?
Yeah.
Okay, that was Microsoft's fault because what they were doing was not good for the industry that they were in. Guess what? There's two examples of both of these companies being exactly who they are and trying to do things that you can argue are things that they're supposed to do. I wouldn't say that they're supposed to do that, but that's the business world. That's how it operates.
Worry,
okay?
that is...
So no one's defending anybody.
No, what we're explaining, and what I've been explaining since the start of the show, Ricardo, is that these are how corporations act. Like, and for these when I'm talking about, like, people saying Jim Ryan's scared Sony, no, they're not scared. They're protecting their bottom line. Was Steve Jobs scared of Samsung when he said, "I'm going to go thermonuclear on them," and they sued them over form factor? Do you remember that worry?
The guy has an elevator in his friggin' house. Who cares what he's scared of? He's got an elevator in his house, and we're worried about him being scared about a business deal? He's not scared about a business deal. He wants to continue having that fucking elevator in his house. He wants to continue having money pour into the company that he works for. There's nothing wrong about acknowledging that. And yeah, okay, if you don't want to hear it, guess what? How many podcasts are there that are completely dedicated to Xbox and telling you everything's great? Go listen to one of them, which you probably do. That's the issue. Here, when adults get together and we want to talk about toys, because we know they're toys and we've been playing with them for a long time. And guess what, Ricardo? We're closer to death than you are. So we're trying to be happy and talk about things that bring us joy. Okay?
Oh my God, Worry.
So look, leave us alone.
The point.
Go listen to I Like Xbox 69 on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Why has it got to be 69? Look,
because that's my favorite number.
That's a great number. The point, Ricardo. Ricardo, the point. And I don't know if you were here at the start of the conversation. The point was to have a rational conversation about this deal and dispels a lot of the disinformation that's coming out here about this deal and how companies behave. Like, again, I use. It's funny. Me and Game Logic always talk about the Apple Samsung thing, where I know you like Apple products, and we use kind of Apple versus Samsung as the kind of the gold case study of how companies behave when you're effing with their money, for lack of a better word, right? Steve Jobs like, yo, you're not going to mess with my money, Samsung. Like, I'm going to go thermonuclear. He did say thermonuclear, by the way, and he actually sued them for saying that they copied the form factor of the phone. Mind you, phones have always been in a rectangular type of shape, even prior to the Apple iPhone, and they went ahead and sued Samsung. And even through that, by the way, Samsung thing, Apple was still buying chips and to make Apple phones from Samsung at the time. I think they were buying chips from Apple. Yeah, I think that Samsung. Yes, they were buying chips at the time. Yeah, and they were still buying other Samsung products to help with the manufacture of Apple products.
Because they all need each other. In
the midst of a lawsuit against Samsung, Apple was still engaged in business with them. So when I hear people say, well, Sony's good. Sony just pooped the bed with Activision. This deal doesn't go through. Activision isn't going to want to do business with them. What? Earlier in the show, I just said 30% of revenue revenue from on Activision comes from Sony PlayStation. Half of the player base that buys Call of Duty's on PlayStation 5. Trust me. If there's money to be made, they will be in bed together. That's how the business world works. It's all about money.
I don't like, it's interesting sometimes to talk about this stuff, right? I get it. But at the end of the day, like, the only thing I really care about are where are good games? Where can I play them? Now, that's subjective. You could say, well, I like the games that are on Xbox. Okay, well, look, I've been playing games for 40 years. I don't necessarily believe that great games are on Xbox right now when you compare them to the two other consoles in the market. Okay? You can call me an idiot. That's fine. But how do I know that I'm correct? I just look at the market outside of social media. What systems are selling? What games are selling to a larger consumer base than people in the comment section calling me an idiot or a shill? And it's Sony and Nintendo. Why is that continually happening? Is it because they're paying everybody in the world to just buy their console? No. They have good content that people want. Look at what happened with The Last of Us. It's insane. Yeah. The Last of Us 1 now is charting. It's absolutely insane. And The Last of Us 2, which I personally didn't love, is probably going to go crazy when they start dipping into the whole Abby timeline in the next series. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's funny, now that I went back and replayed, I think for a third or fourth time, The Last of Us, because I played the remake on PS5, and I thought about The Last of Us 2. I'm disliking The Last of Us 2 even more. It's just not,
it made a couple.
It's not a terrible game, but I don't think it's a great game.
It's got good gameplay. It's fun when you get to the gameplay mechanics, and the stealth and the shooting and stuff like that are better than the first game. But some of the choices with the story are a bit odd to me. Without getting into them, you know what I mean? Because then people go crazy.
Yeah.
But we're playing with toys, guys. We're playing with toys, and you're supposed to want to buy a console to play with it. You're not supposed to want to buy a console so that you can join a community on Twitter, and then hopefully get followers by retweeting nonsense. You're supposed to be playing with your toy. Ooh, did you like that sentence?
I like that, and that's kind of like my point too, and that goes back to a lot of they're feeding off propaganda from podcasters, and it's really money. Like it's really it is money, because these podcasters stand to make money off of spreading misinformation, disinformation, but a lot of this stuff is trivial to me, because it's like, guys, like, this is an opportunity, and I said this before the start of the show, to really kind of get an idea of how the sausage is made, or how.
Ooh. Is it hot or sweet sausage?
I don't know. Look, or understand the regulatory process. But when I start seeing xenophobic attacks at Lena Khan, I over a deal revolved around, like, as you said, Worry, toys. That's a problem.
Every time I hear the word xenophobe, I think of that scene in Aliens where they say,
I always think of that too. Yeah,
I think it's a xenomorph. Xenomorph. It's like, what's that? It's a bug hunt.
No, but it's like it. But again, like,
here's the thing. Yeah. The reason why you're so riled up by this, right? I am kind of, but not as much, because I'm not really engaging much on social media or podcasts and stuff like that. Is because you're older and you're starting to get to the point where you realize that all of the things that you're supposed to be, all the things that are supposed to be bringing you joy, that used to bring you joy with your video game consoles and your systems, have been replaced by all of this noise. Like, for instance, the resolution and the frame rate thing. When did you ever buy, I know you're a PC gamer, but you used to be a console gamer, right? Nobody buys a console and thinks about resolution or frame rate. When did you ever do that? PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2, all I did was say, holy shit, look at God of War on the PlayStation 2, right? Compare it to what I was playing on the PS1. That was a leap. That was a graphical leap. I didn't care what the resolution, I never asked what the resolution or frame rate was. The PS3, the graphics were better to me. All of this stuff started to become marketing. It started to become this noise around video games. What's the resolution? What's the frame rate? Is it 30? Is it? Look at Starfield, right? People are upset if Starfield is 30 frames per second. You're probably going to be upset at that, right?
No, because I'll play it on PC. It'll probably be run more than 30.
Okay. But honestly, who cares? It's a console. Nobody bought a console that I know of. Maybe we're just old, but PS1 to PS2 to PS3, the Nintendo to the Super Nintendo to the N64 to the GameCube. It's just about graphics getting better, new gameplay ideas. But now, first it was 4K, then it's frame rate, because they're not doing anything to evolve the medium anymore. They're not doing anything. That's why we still have last generation, like the Last of Us factions, maybe PS4 and PS5. Like, when are we going to get out of last generation? And the reason that we're not getting out of last generation is because there's no immediate need for them to do that, because everyone is already brainwashed into this idea that, oh, well, a couple of lines of extra resolution, that's why I spent $500. A couple of lines of frame rate here or there. People are arguing about, I did a thing with Resident Evil 4. I played it on the Xbox. I played it on the PS5. I personally think that it looks better on the PS5. I think that atmospherically it looks better. Graphically, it looks better. The DualSense controller, I think it looks better. Somebody did an analysis, and there's about a 2 to 4 frame rate difference between the two right now in the demo. Do you really think 2 to 4 frames per second makes a difference on a console when you're playing that game?
No, it doesn't.
But,
even when I'm playing
do.
on PC and I have a frame rate counter, it's like.
But people do, because they've been brainwashed into this nonsense. That's why when you talk about things like we're talking about, bringing up things about Sony being an evil corporation that just wants to make money, and Microsoft being this sort of, bastion of Mother Teresa Foundation, it makes absolutely no sense to people. They just can't see it.
And that's kind of like my point, that these companies are operating as all companies do in this deal. They are protecting their interest. It's why. Look, I mean, Sony, and people are like, well, why didn't they? And this is another thing. They say, why? Because I've heard a lot of podcasters say this. Well, Microsoft offered them a 10-year deal. That is so generous. 10 years, a duration, an increased duration period for a deal doesn't automatically make that deal good.
I'll be like, listen. You used to make what, $100 million a year? All right, I'll tell you what. I'll give you a deal. For the next 5 years, you can make $100 million. Then get back to me when the 5 years is over. Isn't that a great deal? Of course it's not.
No.
Because what happens when that 5 years is over, that 10 years is over? Then you got to come on your knees to renegotiate. And I get it. It's a power move. Of course, I would do it if I was in charge. But don't pretend like it's some, great gesture and how wonderful they are. They really care about everybody. They're not doing this because they care about the industry or they care about their fans so much and they just want to help the industry move forward. They're doing it because there is money on the table for them. There is control that they could gain for them. Nobody does anything for free anywhere. You pay for what you get.
I mean, Microsoft, as they should, offer Sony a deal that's ultimately going to benefit Microsoft in the long run. And Sony, protecting their interests as they should, aren't not going to accept a deal that doesn't benefit their interest. That's what's happening here.
And they're sitting there saying, you know what's going to happen? In the next 10 years, Sony and PlayStation are going to make so much money off of Call of Duty that they're going to have to come to us and beg us to give them the same deal that we gave them. And what we're going to do is we're going to increase the cost of getting Call of Duty from us, because we know no matter what we do, Call of Duty is always going to be more popular on PlayStation. So
Yeah.
how do we offset that? We've charged them more money after that 10-year deal, and they're going to have to take it because they're not going to give up that money. Is it a great way to do business? Is it a great move? Absolutely. Would I do it? Absolutely. But don't pretend like they're doing it because they're in love with you. Don't pretend like Phil Spencer says, the sky is blue one day, and the next day he's like, well, sometimes it's gray. That's what I really meant. Don't pretend that that's just him making a mistake. Everything they're doing is planned out. There's PR departments for a reason. There are speeches written for a reason. These aren't just random interviews where off the top of his head he's coming up with things to say. All the questions are given to him in advance, and all the answers are written for him in advance. And just like Sony, the same thing is done.
Yeah. And the other thing I was going to say too is, the thing is in Sony, you have to imagine, because they're trying to, as I explained earlier, both sides are acting as, I got to repeat this because I know people are going to miss this point, Worry. Both companies are acting as all corporations do, protecting their interest. Okay. That's why neither one is right or wrong in this instance. They're operating as corporations do. And Sony's got a deal right now in place that benefits them. They're not going to want to just give that up willy-nilly. Also, they also know that if this deal does go through, they're going to try to squeeze and get as many concessions that benefit them should this deal go through. Because again, yeah, I'm sure it's going to go through with concessions.
I'm definitely going to go through.
Yeah, let me get the super chat real quick. Where you got True Virtual? I'm so sorry, True Virtual. Not that this was offensive. I just didn't. We were ranting, and I meant to get to it, and so my apologies. But True Virtual with the $2 super chat. Thank you, sir. Says Jim stole my kids' Christmas presents last year. That doesn't surprise me that Jim Ryan stole your Christmas presents. That's pretty funny.
He dressed up as Santa, came under the chimney, right? Santa comes down the chimney and stole the presents and left a DualSense controller.
Yeah. So, like Brian M gets it. This deal PlayStation has now is better. They make money. AV makes money. They don't want the boat rock. The acquisition could tip it over. Yeah. I mean, look, there's financial impacts, and that's the point. And people are acting like corporations don't exist to make money. They don't care about you. Stop acting like companies care about you. Stop acting like Aaron Greenberg's your buddy. Stop acting like Phil Spencer's your buddy. Stop acting like Jim Ryan cares about gamers. Stop. I mean, they don't care about anyone. They care about their money. They care about their shareholders.
Why am I supposed to be excited about this if I have an Xbox? I have an Xbox.
Yes.
I had a Series S, and then I upgraded to the Series X. Okay. By the way, I like the Series S design much better than the Series X. Why am I supposed to be excited about this? Like, okay, Call of Duty is in Game Pass, and it's also in PlayStation Plus because they offered that, right? Put it in your service. I think. Did they offer it to Sony to put in their service?
They did, and Sony's counter was that they were, egregious licensing terms to that.
Okay, but okay, I don't care about that. Why am I supposed to be excited about this? What's exciting about Call of Duty and Game Pass for me? Okay, here's what I'm excited about. Can I see what Avowed looks like? Could I see what Perfect Dark looks like and plays like? Could I see Fable and what that plays like? Isn't that what you're supposed to be excited about? Why are we excited about this checklist of games in Game Pass? By the way, have you noticed when games release in Game Pass, there's no like pomp and circumstance. Nobody's getting invested in the characters and the stories. It's in Game Pass. Okay, that's 2 games in Game Pass. Okay, that's 20 games in Game Pass. All right, these games are coming out. That's 30 games in Game Pass. Okay, what is exciting about this? You can't be excited about paying $1 or $15 if it means that the content eventually you're going to get is going to have to be watered down a bit. And if you don't think it is, then answer me this question. How much money is the Activision Blizzard King deal? I'm asking you, Brad.
Oh, 70 billion.
70 billion. How much was Bethesda?
9 billion.
Okay, so we're at 80 billion, let's say. Let's round up, okay? So that's cost for Game Pass. We're at 80 billion so far. How much do you think it is for all these third-party licensing deals to put games into Game Pass every month? I don't know.
I don't
pick
know.
a number.
Okay,
whatever.
Yeah.
Okay,
add that to the
80 billion, okay? That's why you see games coming in and out in rotation, because there's a licensing fee to keep them. Now they have to pay that all the time to keep Game Pass going. That's added to the $80 billion. How much does it cost for them, for their first party studios, to keep creating content to put into Game Pass? Add that cost to the $80 billion. So all of that cost doesn't equal profit for Game Pass. Game Pass isn't making a profit. If you forget about all those extra costs, then sure, you can say things like Phil Spencer said, that Game Pass is profitable. But if you add in all of those external costs, there's no way that it's profitable right now. It's just not. So what does that mean for a game like Diablo 4 coming out, which Rod Ferguson just said isn't coming to Game Pass? Why did he say that? Surely it would be coming to Game Pass if the deal was passed, right? Why is he saying it now? Because he knows that there are people simply waiting and will not purchase this game. And he's going to lose the $300 million investment to make this game. What does that mean if it comes to Game Pass day and date next time? Is Microsoft going to spend $300 million on one singular project in addition to offsetting all of those other costs we talked about to make Diablo 5 as good as Diablo 4? Or are they going to decrease the expenditure for each of those IPs to offset the cost of keeping everything going in Game Pass? They're going to decrease the cost of creating these games. There's a real chance that the quality level will decrease to offset the cost going out and the profit coming in. So
I mean that's
I'm waiting for this. I'm waiting for this. You almost need 100 and something million subscribers to offset all of that cost. People are talking about, well, they just pay this, and this for the third-party developers to keep those games in Game Pass, and everything else is profit. Okay, what about the $80 billion they just spent that they have to offset? What about the $8 billion for Bethesda, or the $6 billion for Bethesda? What about the cost just keeping the lights on? What about the cost for the servers to keep them up for Game Pass? What about all of those costs? They're all factored in to Game Pass, all of them.
Well, and so when
what about the cost for Lexington Steel?
Oh my goodness! So when you talk about worry, and I don't look, I've heard like people have thrown that theory around about that maybe the quality of games being impacted. I'm not. I haven't seen anything that leads me to believe that that's going to happen. I do think that
So you think they're going to spend $300 million on one singular IP? You think they're going to create a Last of Us 2 level of game for Game Pass? Because remember, all of these games all these games in development right now, like the Activision, Diablo 4 5 is in development before Microsoft owns them.
Yeah, I think
so they're
that
spending tons of money, Activision, because they want that return.
I think
they're making the game as well as they can.
Yeah, I think if anyone, I think Microsoft could again because of their war chest, they could position themselves as a loss leader just to grab market share. That's what they want right now is market share.
Right, but here's
now
the thing. They've done that. They've done that with Zune. They did that with God. What was the other thing they did it with? A Mixer. They've done that. There is a cutoff point. They can't just continually take losses forever.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, Worry. I just my only caution with that theory is that sometimes people think that we're at that point with Microsoft, and I don't think we're there yet.
No,
but I do agree with you.
No.
I do think that at some point, if this doesn't work out, then it's like, okay, well, what do we do now? And I don't know if they can garner enough subscriptions where it makes sense for them. Maybe they can, but two things will need. I do think two things are going to happen because of this deal. If this deal goes through. One, you'll get more subscribers, but two, at some point, just like we've seen with other subscription services where they've acquired assets, what happens? What's that?
There's a peak. You get to a peak.
Yeah, there's also a peak, but what happens though? They increase the price.
Oh, the subscription fee. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sure.
Yeah, so that's going to happen. So I mean, people should expect that there is going to be a price increase. So
I just got another dollar deal from them. It's my 4th year. I'm like, how the hell have I paid $1 for 4 years in a row for this? They keep offering it to me. So, okay, I'll take it, but I mean, I can't imagine how I would be making money doing something like this. But if, like I'm saying, listen, I'm not saying that, if you're out there, you should be thinking about this or complaining about it because you're the consumer. Take it for $1, right? Take it. But as someone a little bit older, I'm worried about the quality of the content I'm going to get. Like, to me, Redfall isn't a AAA game.
Mm.
It just doesn't. It just doesn't look like a AAA game to me. I'm concerned that everything they do is going to be geared towards keeping you in Game Pass. Wouldn't that make sense if everything they do is geared towards keeping you in Game Pass? Doesn't that just make sense? It sounds right, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're
what kind of content do they have to create?
Well, I mean that's the thing. I mean, I've always my thing with the Game Pass, and the reason I signed up for Game Pass is because I was thinking AAA games, like with these big AAA games like the Gears, the Halos, and whatever else they're going to come out with. That's why I signed up for Game Pass.
Right.
So even if they didn't have, you got to remember, like most like multiplayer games are probably. Many are probably going to be like free to play stuff with like, microtransactions, so maybe Game Pass doesn't factor. I said Game Pass. Game Pass doesn't factor that equation. But yeah, I could see them. I could certainly see them making these co-op type live services games where you play with friends, kind of like what Redfall is and what Borderlands is, and to kind of keep you engaged in that ecosystem. It's to keep you subscribed. That hey, if you. But then again, the other thing is you can buy those games and not necessarily be subscribed to Game Pass. So then I wonder if at some point they cut that off to keep people subscribed without giving them the option to buy those games at a discounted price. That's the other thing too.
All of these things are possible, and that's why look, obviously I'm not a fan of subscription services. I'm just not a fan of recurring payments. I don't think it's smart financially to lock yourself into anything that you can forget about. And most people forget about their subscriptions, right? That's why subscription services exist. Everybody forgets about their gym membership. Everybody forgets about their Netflix membership. Look at when Netflix raised the price. Half the people subscribed to Netflix didn't even know it, that they raised the price. So I just don't like the idea of being locked into something, and that's a me problem. But for me, it's about the content and what's going to happen to it. I just don't want this. We need to keep people into the subscription service. How do we do it? Do we do it with really deep, emotional, story-driven games and worlds? Or do we do it with games that you can kind of play by yourself, like Redfall, which is what they always say? It's kind of a single-player game, but you can run around with 4 people, 3 people plus yourself, 4 people. That in and of itself means the game is designed in a very specific way. It's not designed as a game that's going to be heavily story-based. It's designed as a game that's going to be heavily like there's a gameplay loop where you're shooting things, there's a wave, your friends help you, and then you move on to the next area. Okay, fine, you can have games like that, but it feels like, to me, my fucking opinion, that this is what Microsoft is going to do for everything. Like Hellblade, is that going to have a multiplayer? Mm-hmm. Starfield, is that going to have a multiplayer? Even though I think they said no, it won't. Perfect Dark, is Perfect Dark really going to be this atmospheric-driven first-person shooter, or is it just going to be?
Maybe we'll have to see. Yeah, we don't know. We don't know, Rory.
Yeah, I don't know.
I hope so too.
But based on what I'm seeing, I'm pretty sure they're going to be more focused in on the multiplayer. Look at what happened to Halo. How many people, like Halo, there was such a split. It was almost 50-50 between the people that loved Halo for the story and the characters and the lore, and the people that loved it for the multiplayer. And people went back and forth between both of those styles of gameplay. That's how great Halo was. Then you get to the point where, Halo Infinite is basically, all right, no Covenant, let's just have them shoot brutes. Yeah. And the story will kind of be okay. We won't really follow up on anything, and then right to multiplayer. That doesn't have to happen. That shouldn't have to happen, especially with something like Halo.
Yeah, let me get the super chat. True Version with the $2 super chat says, "I'm an Xbox fan because Phil has a Lexington Steel." Wow.
Yes, there you go. At least he's honest, man. I got to give him credit.
So I want to kind of.
Look, I don't know Phil Spencer. I'm not dunking on Phil Spencer or
this is
Jim Ryan. It's just that's their job. Their job is to lie to you. That's marketing, guys.
Yeah, it is marketing. Yeah, but this is kind of like Google Post says, "I do because you guys can't face the truth." I don't know what he's talking about, but he says something. Where is it? I lost it here.
We can't face what truth. That's great.
Sony has to keep up with the times. The market isn't how it was in the 2010s, which Sony
then why
built
are they
on.
Outselling everybody?
So Google Poe again. This is
why they're outselling everybody right now. They have to keep up with the times.
Yeah, this is the point. Google Poe, like subscription services are very, very. They're not even they're very, very small portion of the market. I think Microsoft even said revenue from Game Pass is maybe 15% of the revenue. So I understand if you're trying to say that perhaps Game Pass is this disruptor that could push the market. I think Microsoft is, well, I think Microsoft probably wants to push the market that direction because it benefits them. But to sit there and act like, and this is a talking point that I hear on very Xbox centric podcasts, that Sony isn't innovating. Again, propaganda. These ideas that aren't even substantiated on any data points or anything. It's just, oh well, you know what? It's the future because it makes sense. No, like Rory just said, there's a reason why console sales are still high. There's a reason why Sony's doing well in the console space. Am I saying that this model is going to be the model of the next 20, 30 years? Probably not. I would imagine probably not. But again, it also doesn't mean that Sony can't pivot.
If you're basing your enjoyment on something based on what it's going to be 20 years from now, you're an idiot. Okay, there's a reason why. Look at Nintendo, the most anemic online you can possibly have. In my opinion, the best subscription service you can have. They are just now starting to be outsold by the PlayStation 5. So explain to me this theory that somebody has to get with the times. I have news for you. The times that you think are over are resurging right now. The PlayStation 5 is the most sold console. Why? Is it because they're not getting with the times? If the times are what Microsoft is doing, why isn't the Xbox the most sold console? Why aren't Game Pass subs expanding on console? I think Phil Spencer said recently that they reached a peak. All the people on console that wanted to subscribe have subscribed. So they're looking to grow in other areas. Who's getting with the times?
Yeah, and I'm not saying
make a statement like that without actually doing your homework. That's the problem. So I'm going to default to the person who wrote that in your comment section is probably 20 years old or younger, and we've got to just excuse their ignorance.
Well, he says if it isn't that big of a deal, then why do you act like it is? I mean, I'm not. I don't know what you're referring to.
We're talking about it because it's a talk show. We're talking about it. We're giving an opinion. When I hang up from here, I don't give a shit. We're talking about it right now.
All right. So Ricardo wants to know, worry if Microsoft don't giving you. I think he meant if Microsoft isn't giving you the games you want. Why are you still playing Xbox when you can play PlayStation 5?
Well, who says I'm not playing PlayStation 5? I mean, I just finished Hogwarts Legacy on PlayStation 5. I'm close to finishing Atomic Heart on PlayStation 5. I'm playing Skyrim right now again on my Xbox Series X. So, see, this is the problem. When you make a statement, you talk about something, you guys have to classify people in a box. You cannot grasp the idea that somebody could enjoy multiple things and also see the negative in them. That's the biggest problem.
Oh my God, that's why I'm laughing. Because it's like, exactly, Ricardo, you were doing the thing that I just said.
What the hell are you talking about? Like, listen, it's Worry Word Gamer. Go on PlayStation, check out my PlayStation games. I'm not hiding anything. Go on Xbox. I have 134,000 gamer score. What are you talking about that I don't play on Xbox or I don't play on PlayStation?
I mean, Gogol Poe, you're saying that you just have to look at how Square Ubisoft is right now and how Forspoken and Callisto both sunk their studios with just one game.
So what does that mean, though? Does that mean everybody should go to subscription service?
Well, that's So Gogol, what's the solution to that then? Because mind you, Gogol Poe, that's not uncommon, dude. I've been gaming for 40 something years. What you're describing isn't this new phenomena.
What happened to Sumo Digital after Crackdown 3? Where are they?
So he's saying it's a rational reason to make subs work. Is it? What happens to those games that get lost in the shuffle of a subscription service?
The only people who can make subscription services work aren't me, isn't BRAP, isn't people in your comment section. It's consumers. They either are going to want it or they're not. If they don't want it, it doesn't mean that you're right and everyone else is an idiot. It could probably mean that you're the idiot and everyone else is correct.
Well, the thing is Gogol Poe is, and this is part of the problem.
What's Gogol Poe?
I don't know what Gogol Poe is. Maybe I don't know what that is, but I am starting to think
never
that
find Love like mine.
I'm starting to think.
Someone who cares about you
Oh my goodness.
like I do. That's what I sing to Jim Ryan every night.
Oh my god.
We'll go dancing in the dark,
So,
rolling through the park, and
but worry, I mean, worry.
reminiscing.
We've been on social media for like 10 years, and
I have. I've been on and off for 10 years.
You're on and off for 10 years, and you and I have podcasts go back 9 years or so.
At least
9 years.
You're like Voldemort to me. You're the person I shall not talk to.
Oh man, come on! Why do I have to be Voldemort? I mean, but all right.
Is that the name you're not supposed to say in the Harry Potter universe?
That is the name you're not supposed to not say. But
right.
But here's the thing: like people take like hey, Google's like and I don't know if you're doing this, Google, but I see a lot of people because again, the propaganda, Is he
still in your chat? Is he still in your chat, Google? How old are you, Google? And I don't mean this in a bad way, honestly.
Yeah.
Like it's okay if you're young. Just how old are you, honestly? Don't say like 30 just because you don't want to be. Just honestly, we're not attacking you at all. We're just having a conversation. So,
well, Go says your argument is that Microsoft isn't making. I didn't say Microsoft isn't making money. What I'm saying is that the maturity point of their subscription service accounts for or where their maturity, I should say, where their subscription service is from a maturation standpoint. Okay. And if you look at just where subscription services fall within the entire industry, for Microsoft, it's only 15% of their revenue. Actually, it might be less than that. I'd have to look that up.
Game Pass is not making money. Microsoft is making a ton of money. Game Pass isn't making money.
Notice I said revenue. I said revenue.
It's the same argument where Phil Spencer says, people who have Game Pass buy more games. Of course, when you hear that, it sounds just incorrect. It's wrong. And now we know it cannibalizes itself. You don't have to be somebody in the industry to hear a statement like that and think to yourself, why would they buy more games if they're subscribed to a subscription service? You guys prove it every single day when you say, I'm just waiting for the game to come to Game Pass. Of course you don't buy more games. Nobody's saying Microsoft doesn't make money. Microsoft is like the third in terms of profit. I think they're the third in terms of profit, not revenue, profit. So they're making tons of money. But the subsidiary within them, Game Pass, isn't making money right now. It's just not happening.
So Xbox, here it is. Game Pass is around 15% of Microsoft's overall Xbox content and services revenue. So they're bundling Xbox with content services.
Exactly. And they're giving you a revenue number.
Yeah.
That's what they're giving you, which is the smart thing to do.
Okay. So again, Google Poll, you are making, okay.
Google Poll.
He's saying they know that already. They work on submodels that are used in a ton of businesses. He's talking about the enterprise business. Okay.
Subscribing to a subscription service for video games is not like subscribing to Windows or Word.
No, it's not. Think about who has enterprise. Think about where enterprise is. It's not on the same playing field. And I'm not saying that it won't ever get there for Game Pass. Maybe it will. But let's stop making arguments as to why you think that might happen or why that is happening. Like, again, Google, you are making this is just a nonsensical argument. And again, it's confined to this idea and love, or not idea, but it's a love and emotion that people have to plastic boxes. Let's step outside that box and think rationally about this, for crying out loud. That is my frustration. I got to get this super chat. Charles Hawk, with $2 super chat.
Thank you for subscribing to my channel, by the way. Thank you. Go subscribe. Thank you. Appreciate it, Google.
Charles Hawk with the $2 super chat. COD won't make me move to Xbox or Game Pass. Okay, that's fair, Charles Hawk. I mean,
sure. And you know what? It won't make me because I'm not a big multiplayer COD person, but I'm not so dim-witted as to think that it won't make some people move.
Yes, I will absolutely no longer buy COD on PlayStation if COD goes on Game Pass, because I will get it in Game Pass. Well, at least the campaign, please. Well, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So I'm one of those people.
That should make Gogopo feel better that you said that.
Gogopo, I hope you feel better now that I said that, because yeah.
We're only messing around, Gogopo. We don't hate you.
No, we don't hate you. I just
whatever you are.
I just don't agree with your viewpoints. I think they're a bit nonsensical and
rolling through the park and reminiscing.
Microsoft agrees with BRAP here. But look, I mean,
I'm just happy that Nintendo exists, because no matter what happens between Xbox and PlayStation, if Xbox rules the world when it comes to subscription services and gaming, wonderful. I'm always going to have a toy made by Nintendo and Nintendo games. So I'm safe. I'm not upset about what's happening, but it's interesting to talk about.
I guess I do feel like though that like with Game Pass, like there's always this like group that either feels the need to like prove why Game Pass is so good.
It's because of social media,
and this group that needs to prove why it's so bad. But I really feel like I feel like the Xbox community to some extent has a little bit of Stockholm syndrome, when they just they just take it to another level. And I don't mean that as like
social media. When you start saying something, look, there's a feedback loop on social media, and it happens to everybody, even me. When you say something and a bunch of people like it, there's this dopamine effect, right? You want more of it. You want more of it. You want more of it. And people are just addicted to that. That's why you see this split on social media, Xbox, PlayStation. You don't see it as much with Nintendo. You don't see it at all with retro gaming channels. That's why I love talking to people in the retro gaming community. I just absolutely love it because they don't give a shit about anything other than games. They don't even care where they are. You know, it's like a crack addict. Just give me the crack. I don't care where I get it from. I want it. But it's just nuts. It's gotten to the point where it's nuts. Where you make a video about, like I'll make a video about video games, talking about them, and I'll get like 50 views, right? If I make a video that says Xbox versus PlayStation, it'll get, 70 times the views. It's social media. And look, don't hate the player, hate the game, right? So there are people who do that are very successful. I don't like that they do it, but it's working for them. I can't begrudge them. I just think, like the people in your chat who are so bent on what you're saying that can't get it, eventually you're going to be that. So that's why I think everybody's young. You're gonna get to the point where you're outside of this bubble and you realize, these are just toys, and sometimes it's fun to talk about them or speculate as to what's going to happen. And if you say things like, well, if you don't care about it, why are you on social media? If you don't care about it, why are you commenting in a podcast comment section? Why are you here? You're here for the same reason we are.
Yeah. Well, and again, my
rolling through the park and reminiscing.
Oh my God, this guy, man.
Who's it? Is it Pogo again? Or
no, it's
Pogo,
the
Pogo?
Guy. It's Ricardo. Your good buddy
Ricardo Montalban. What does he want?
He's saying worry because you keep complaining about low budget games on Game Pass like PS5.
I'm not complaining about low budget. What low budget games am I complaining about? Hi-Fi Rush is a fantastic game. It's not a AAA game, right? But why am I? What games am I complaining about? What I'm complaining about is something that hasn't happened yet. And I'm not complaining about it. I'm asking the question, could this happen based on the amount of money spent to have to make big, huge AAA games?
Ricardo,
could it happen?
Ricardo, Worry is presenting a theory.
Yes. Is it possible that a $300 million Diablo 5 becomes a $100 million Diablo 6 because of it being in a subscription service and all of the costs now associated with that subscription service, not just a one-off of a game? That's all I'm asking. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying it could happen. And there's a reason why I'm called friggin' worrywart. So I don't know what to tell you. Everything isn't sunshine and rainbows with Sony and what they do. Everything isn't sunshine and rainbows with Xbox and what they do. Game Pass isn't the answer. Game Pass isn't like this new religion. It's almost like fucking Scientology at this point. Game Pass. There's going to be a church, and you're going to go there like every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Oh, all right, and we got B Money here. What's up, B Money?
What's going on, fellas?
Not much, man. Happy you could join us, B. Did you? By the way, did you see my
rolling through the park? Hey, B Money, you know Lexington Steel, right? Come on.
Yeah, I know.
Man, he said Lexington Steel. Worry said that B Money. I was like, oh my God. I was like, and I knew it was. I was like, dude, I was like, is this bad that I know who Lexington Steel is?
Oh, it's not bad. That's like 80s education when you were growing up as a kid. You know what I mean?
Well, yes. I don't disagree with you. Let me get this super chat real quick before I go to B Money. Viper XT with a $5.50 Canadian super chat. Thank you, sir. Here is a way Microsoft can get people to move from PlayStation to Xbox while keeping parity in price, features, performance, etc. They remove the Xbox Live fees. Thank you for that super chat, sir.
Absolutely, that's brilliant.
That's actually not a bad idea.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If they say tomorrow, first off, gold is horrible. It's absolutely terrible. Get rid of gold. Tell everybody, you know what? Playing online, all these social features, they're accessible for free. And if you want, you can get Game Pass Ultimate for $15 a month. Huge. It would be huge.
Yeah. Go ahead, Worry. What's up, man?
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
I'm not worried.
B-Money.
B Money. I'm sorry. B Money. B Money.
No,
I don't know why.
You're good.
Sorry, man.
A lot of people mistake us for one another.
Yeah. We're twins.
We're twin.
I don't know if Microsoft would ever do that, to be totally honest, just because Xbox Live is such a huge revenue stream for them. And
it's so
I don't
bad.
think it. Yeah, it is, and I don't think it's really panning out as far as like what they expected from Game Pass, as far as the amount of subscribers that they kind of felt that they would have at this point, and kind of where they're at, and that this whole Activision deal is kind of contingent on seeing that Game Pass number kind of head in the direction that they expect, which we've talked about on BRAP. I don't think it's actually gonna be as big of a deal as people are thinking that it will be, as far as getting more subscribers there and whatnot, just because of Call of Duty being in the service. But that's another conversation for another day. But I was listening to the show, and you guys are bringing up some really great points. So I figured I'd jump in here and just kind of give my 2 cents on the subject as well. A lot of people are up in arms and kind of going back and forth about the whole deal and kind of what the implications of the deal will be for both parties, Microsoft and Sony. And it's like, at the end of the day, as long as we continue to get great games, that's all that matters. Like, the deal is going to go through. Microsoft's going to take over Activision Blizzard King, and in that takeover, all you hope is that the quality of the content stays at a high bar.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? If it doesn't, then we got to have a different conversation. And I think that's where a lot of people who aren't infatuated with Microsoft and Xbox are kind of standing on the outside and saying, hey, you guys, you have all these studios and you have all these IPs, and we've been waiting and we've been waiting and waiting. Like, what's going on? And then every few weeks we hear, oh, this studio is having trouble, or that studio is having trouble, or people are leaving, and studio heads don't know what they're doing, and we're making games but we don't know what they are. Like, people are rightfully questioning what the hell is going on over there. So when you are going out to spend another $80 million or $80 billion to acquire this big publisher, and some that comes with a lot of beloved IPs that people, really enjoy, people are going to start questioning what is going to happen when Microsoft takes over. Is the game quality going to lower? Is it going to get better? Or is it going to stay the same? And just based on the history over the last 5 years, people are going to question. It's probably going to get lower. It's not going to stay the same, because that return has to come. A $300 million game right now might not be the same $300 million game going forward under that umbrella. That's just fact.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's not like, how dare you bring this up? Why are you talking about it? Why wouldn't you talk about it? If it's something like, just because games aren't like this trivial thing, like they're a luxury expense, it's a luxury expense. You don't need to play video games, but if they're important to you and you're into them, of course you want to think about the quality of these games in the future and what could degrade them. It's not like you're against Microsoft, you're against Game Pass. I have Game Pass. Hi-Fi Rush was a huge drop. I thought it was brilliant. Unbelievable. I thought it was an unbelievable game that came out of nowhere for Game Pass. What you just said, though, Game Pass as a whole, how do you get people to subscribe to Game Pass and how do you keep them? It's a service contingent on recurring money, and multiplayer and co-op skews to that. So for me, as somebody who loves the idea of new characters being created, new worlds, to worry about that in the future isn't so far-fetched. That's all I'm saying when I say these things.
Yeah. No.
I
Go ahead,
totally
B.
agree. I totally agree with that. You know what I mean? Because, you know, for the longest time, you know, we've you know, you compare both of the two higher tier consoles or console brands as far as, you know, the type of content that you're gonna get. So a lot of people will say, you know, that The Last of Us and IPs like that are the golden standard of what people expect from those type of games. And, you know, for a
Or from
long
first
time,
party in general, right? Yeah, first
right,
party.
right. For first party content. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
Nintendo is great at that as well. They're just in a, you know, it's a different box. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But people want that same. They expect that same type of quality content from Microsoft. And as of yet, since they've made all these acquisitions, we have not seen that. And
That's
like
fair.
Corey said
Yep.
before, in regards to Halo, Halo used to be the pinnacle of what Xbox was. What has Halo turned into now?
Oh man, B.
It's a shell of itself, to be totally honest. And even with them, you know, going in and, you know, gutting the team and trying to bring new leadership in there and, you know, trying to get the train back on the track. Look at what the latest update is.
You know about season 3?
Update, right? Season
Yeah.
3 is it a significant enough update for people who have been playing the game since launch? No, it's not.
No, B, I'm on it right now, man. And while the new some of the new game modes are great and the new maps are certainly welcomed, it's not enough. I don't think it's enough. And even and this is kind of nitpicking at this point, but I think it's nitpicking. I think it's rightfully so that I'm nitpicking at this point with season 3, with the season 3 launch, because when you go into the armor settings where you switch your armor sets, like you get like a stuttering effect. And it's like, this is the UI. Why am I having a stuttering effect season 3 in this menu? I've never had that before.
Is there any single player content at all in there?
No, they didn't release any single player content season 3. They were, yeah. I don't know if they're gonna focus on any player, any new campaign.
Aren't they supposed to be scrapping Halo Infinite and starting over with Unreal Engine for a new game?
That's I believe. Someone would have to confirm that. I don't recall, but I think that is the case, that they are working on another Halo using Unreal Engine.
And it would make sense to have that just be a single player game and just keep the engine, what's the engine they have? Slipspace, right? For the multiplayer?
Yeah.
Just keep that going as a free to play. Maybe they'll do something like that. I don't know.
Hey, T. Harris, for those who don't know, I was a Xbox Live beta tester.
I was there with you with NFL Fever.
Yes, and Revolt.
Oh, that game was bad.
Oh, I loved Revolt. Revolt was so
no.
much fun.
I remember the first time I played Quake, and there was no voice chat working. But in order for us to know we were playing with other people, like I would move up and down and left and right, and then the other person would move up and down and left and right. I remember being blown away by that. I'm like, oh my God, this is a real person across the internet.
I remember those days.
Phenomenal. It was phenomenal.
I remember
Xbox Live, like Game Pass, is a disruptor in the industry.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and Xbox Live worked out well for a time. I mean, it's still doing well. I think gold should go away. We're not saying Game Pass isn't going to be a disruptor or maybe be much better in the future, but this worship like it's a religion is insane.
That's kind of my And B Money, you've been around for a long time, man. Like, you're one of the OGs in podcasting, for those who don't know.
Yeah.
The Inner Circle podcast, for those who don't know, like you guys were like the first to have like Phil Spencer on and all these great industry guests. But I think you've seen kind of, and I think you've said like, you kind of stay off social media because of this, right? Because of kind of what Rory described, the behavior of, kind of the cult, if you will.
Yeah, it's a lot of goofy nonsense. I changed a lot of my timeline just because it is a bunch of nonsense. But I'm into different stuff, so my timeline is a lot different now.
Shoes,
less gaming stuff. Yeah, sneakers, tech stuff. Gambling, stuff like that. You know what I mean? So my timeline has changed up. I don't really get into much of the nonsense. I don't really see as many spaces going on, in regards to gaming and stuff like that. Just because it's a bunch of back and forth, and at this point, I'm kind of tired of talking about this
Yeah.
division deal because it's like I just want it to be over with. You know what I mean? Like I just want the dust to settle and we can kind of move on from here and see what actually happens with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's slowing up a lot of stuff for both sides. I think. You know what I mean? Because they're kind of going back and forth and not really revealing stuff like they should, and it's kind of put a halt on everything. So I want it to be over with so we can kind of get back to gaming and hopefully get back to releasing quality content in a timely fashion. Because if you look at just some of the other third party outside players, I mean, look at what's going on with Suicide Squad. They got this bad reception. Now they deleted the game. No new date on it. You know what I mean? Ubisoft is like in shambles. Square Enix just had to fold in one of their devs back in house. So when you start looking at the landscape, as some of the bigger players that used to be out there, it's just like, it's not looking that great. You know what I mean? Like EA is probably the only one giving us hope just because they kind of restructured a little bit and what they're doing over there with Vince Zampella and his team and kind of reworking things. There's some promise there, but even BioWare is a shell of itself. We don't know what's going to come out of those devs and what we should expect from the next Mass Effect or Dragon Age game. Like it's a totally different time. When they're releasing great games till now, and there's other players in the space. Releasing great RPG content. So can they live up to what they used to be? And it's just a lot going on, and I think this Activision Blizzard thing is kind of holding the cloud over everybody else.
Yeah. No, I think so. I hear you, B. I agree with you, man. Yeah. Hey, B, real quick, man. So, off topic. So the Jordan, what is it? The Jordan 2s? Was it the 2s? This past weekend? Was that what Nike dropped?
No, that was Jordan 3s.
Jordan 3s.
Yeah, reimagined 3s. Yep.
So I have this sneaker app, and I set the reminder. Isn't it supposed to remind me?
Yeah. It's supposed to remind you. It depends on which time you set it for.
I don't think it reminded me, man, and I missed out my chance to get through. I was so mad. So mad.
Yeah.
I was like, they're sold out.
Oh yeah. You're not getting those unless you're playing resale, man.
Did you get a pair or no?
No, I missed out as well. A couple of my buddies tried to get them. They missed out as well. So, you got to take a look at the resale market, see what's out there.
No, they're like $300, man, is what I'm seeing.
Yeah, 300 to like 375. So
that's too much, man. I'm not spending that much on shoes, man. Can't do it.
I mean, people do it every day, though, man.
I know.
It's a totally different game in the sneaker world.
Oh yeah. I got some Air Max 90s though. I don't know if you saw the picture I put in the BRAP DM.
Oh no, I have to go back there and check.
Yeah, I just got some Air Max 90s, so I love them. Love them.
Yeah, man. Air Maxes are dope.
Yeah, but
Air Max Day is actually coming up pretty soon, so there should be quite a few Air Maxes releasing on Air Max Day. So yeah, pretty big day coming up March 26th. So I'm looking forward to that as well. The Air Max 1 big bubble is coming back this year. So definitely looking forward to that. And sneakers in general, that's like my wheelhouse.
yeah.
I spend way more money on sneakers in a year than I do video games, and I spend a lot on video games. So you could only imagine how much I spend on sneakers. My wife, it's kind of aggravated me. Every couple of days there's a new box at the door, stacked up in the basement. You know what I mean?
Oh man.
It's just one of those things, man. It's definitely a drug that I'm addicted to.
I hear you. Well, look, I want to go ahead and wrap up this rant. I didn't realize it was 7:00, but want to thank everyone in the live chat for hanging out with us tonight. Really appreciate it. Do me a favor, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Hit that bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. We'll be back live at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday of this week to talk more gaming-related news. And want to give a big shout-out to Worry Wirt, who joined us. Worry, thank you, man. Always a pleasure talking video games with you, good sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Have a good night. Have a good night, Ogo Pogo, or whatever that name was.
Gogo Po. Thank you, Gogo Po.
Right.
Thank you for that.
Go subscribe
compliment.
to my channel, Werewolf Gamer. Go subscribe.
And B man, hey, always a pleasure, man, having you on as well, man.
Oh, you know it, man. Anytime.
All right. Well, look, we'll be back this Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time for a regular scheduled BRAP. Until then, hey, enjoy the next couple days playing video games. We will catch you all on Wednesday. Thank you.